Today, we come to the fifth joyful mystery, which is the finding of the child Jesus in the temple. The temple is God's presence on earth. The temple is where God is worshipped on earth before the crucifixion of Christ and the institution of the holy sacrifice of the Mass. It was the physical place where God set up his throne. It is where God set up his throne in his presence. And this is where all the Jews came several times a year to worship collectively, and that the priests daily offered sacrifice. Now, at this time, Jesus is coming to the temple with his family at the time when all of them are called together, when all the Jews are called together. They're traveling in a group. Sometimes you know what that's like. The men and women would travel separately. The children would be between them. And after they had been traveling one day back to Nazareth, they realized, Mary and Joseph realized, that Jesus is with neither of them. Now, you've probably been in a similar situation yourself. You probably know the panic that's involved on the part of the parents, and often the children, depending on where you're lost. We just want to remember, though, that Mary was without sin, and Joseph was also sanctified, so that even though they felt the anxiety, they did not lose their minds. They were not frantic. They were anxious because they lost the Son of God. That's all right to be anxious about that. But they go back to Jerusalem. Now remember, they've already been traveling for a day, so it takes them another day to get back. And so this is the third day now, which should ring a bell. The third day is a prefiguring of the resurrection. And they look for him and find him in the temple. Now, they go up to Jesus, and Mary, who knows who Jesus is, it's not like Mary was confused. This is the Son of God. He's not up to some childhood antics. He's not playing a prank on them. She knows that. It's not, y'all might run away from your parents and try to make them nervous or whatever, do your own thing. But Jesus is not doing that. So she knows this. But she's like, okay, what's going on? Why did you do this? Because she's been very anxious about it. She goes and she asks him, because they find him in the temple teaching. And his response is, and her question is, your father and I have been looking for you. This is very important. Joseph is not the biological father of Jesus. Jesus does not have a biological father, and yet he is called Father, because fatherhood is not just physical. Fatherhood is a relationship, and so St. Joseph has a fatherly relationship to Jesus, a real relationship. And so he has this relationship. Mary calls Joseph his father. And Jesus responds, did you not know that I must be about my Father's business in my Father's home? Now, what is Jesus saying with this? He is claiming God as his father. He's not rejecting Joseph. But again, Joseph is not his biological father. He is from heaven because he is the second person of the most blessed Trinity. And this is very important. There are people that like to think that Jesus didn't know who he was until this incident, or Jesus didn't know he was until the Father's voice was heard from heaven in the baptism. Absolute nonsense. Jesus knew that he was the Son of God. He's expressing this very clearly here in this story. As the Son of God, but with Joseph as having his adopted father, and of course he is the child of Mary, which means he's human, we recognize in this mystery that Jesus Christ is true God and true man, both. He's He gets his flesh from the Blessed Virgin Mary, but his person is the second person of the Blessed Trinity, the Son of God. So after this encounter, the child Jesus goes back with his parents to Nazareth, and the scriptures tell us that he grew in wisdom and knowledge. We see here the fact again that he has a human nature. So Jesus does grow, and he spends the rest of his adult life until his public ministry working with Joseph and learning his trade as a craftsman, as a carpenter. We call this the hidden life. It's very important for all of us who want to do anything for God's greater glory and the salvation of souls to recognize the fact that all mission is preceded by this quiet time. This mystery teaches us also a devotion to the Holy Family, and the fruit of the mystery is the joy in finding Jesus, because ultimately, even though God is everywhere, he is only in the Blessed Sacrament, physically present to us. And the Blessed Sacrament is reserved in our temples, in our churches, where we should all seek and find him.